Today we're going to chat about Cillian the Lucky. Hey, welcome! I'm LeilaFox. Today's lore story is going to be for Cillian the Lucky. Cillian is a legendary Banner Lord champ in Raid Shadow Legends. Now what's fun with him is I figured he kind of fit into the March, St. Patty's Day kind of theme, because when we check him out, he does have like a shamrock on him, and his story is actually pretty funny. Let's get into the lore story for Cillian the Lucky from the Tolarian Lore Book of Champions. The lands of Teleria are never short of champions, albeit not all of them fit the idealized tales of stalwart heroes or dreaded villains. Just like some warriors forge their legends in battle with peerless talent, so too some stumble into the spotlight through sheer dumb luck. This is one such tale. Sir Cillian was never blessed with an impressive stature or any particular grace. He ever was, as he is now, portly and cheerful, far more interested in attending the next feast than winning glory on the field of battle. As a page in the service of Sir Frederic, an exalted knight of Karacho, Cillian was the least talented student of all arts martial. He was awkward and clumsy with the sword, could not hit a target with a bow if it was set more than 10 paces away from him, and could barely ride a horse without falling over his head. He was ridiculed by his peers and mercilessly berated by his tutors, though no amount of beating could awaken the talent that was simply not there. One fateful day, Cillian's impressive display of aptitude made him the target of the Lord's ire, and he was forced to flee the castle. He sought to hide in the woods that surrounded Fadric's ancestral estate and, true to his nature, lost his way mere minutes after entering the forest thicket. Hapless, he roamed the overgrown paths for hours upon hours until finally coming across a hidden glade. There were voices coming from the glade, pure and clear, elated as they sang the songs of joy. Mesmerized by the beautiful music, Cillian made his way to the glade, and what he saw there would change his life forever. Dancing around a mighty oak that grew in the very middle of the glade and clad in clothes of bright colors were the forest fae, their voices joining together to praise the rebirth of nature that spring brought. Cillian was dumbfounded and froze on the spot, observing the jubilant spirits for what seemed like an eternity before a drowse overtook him and he fell into a deep slumber. When he woke up, the fae were gone as if they never existed, and, at first, Cillian assumed he had dreamt it all up. But as he got up to his feet, something slipped off his chest and onto the ground beneath. The young page leaned over to find a four-leaf clover of such a vibrant green it stood out immediately in the fresh grass that covered the forest floor. Not one to let a bit of luck go to waste, he gathered the leaf and hurried away from the glade. From that day onward, Cillian's very undertaking was blessed with uncanny fortune. He found his way back home without stumbling off the correct path even once, and in the days that followed, he somehow managed to pass every single test he had failed before. His opponents would stumble and fall, his arrows would find their mark no matter how laughable his technique was, and he eventually lucked his way to knighthood. As a knight of Karacho, Sir Cillian won many a joust when the horses of his rivals veered off course or rose to their haunches inexplicably a second before his lance dislodged their rider to the cheerful applause of the observing crowds. So too did many foes find their end in the most undignified way, such as Zenser the Grim, an infamous necromancer, tripping over his very own cloak and stumbling off the edge of his tower moments before unleashing a deadly spell upon Sir Cillian. Or the orc chieftain Arzak the Bloodthirsty, whose band of raiders terrorized an entire duchy for years, falling victim to a swarm of angry hornets when Sir Cillian accidentally dislodged their nest upon Arzak's head. Of course, the commoners care little what force ensures their hero's success, and over the years, Cillian's tale grew and spread far and wide. To this day, he remains a beloved and famed knight, whose deeds are eclipsed only by his love for ale and song. Okay, so that was the story for Cillian, and like I said, his story is actually pretty silly. I like how what they did with him is they kind of made him like he was clumsy, kind of like he was just I don't know, like a buffoon, right? That they said he was the worst one in all of the knighthood of all of the pages, that he could never hit anything with his bow and arrow, always fell off his horse, lost in these jousts and these duels. One day gets everybody upset, so he runs to hide, and then he ends up finding this forest like fae. When he falls asleep, he wakes up, he gets this shamrock, and then all of a sudden it's like that, where now he's lucky. And it's just by dumb luck almost that they say that he ends up getting his way into knighthood, that he ends up winning jousts, that he ends up fighting against like sorcerers and orcs, and by sheer luck, he ends up just winning. So I think this is just a really like funny, humorous take on a lore story. So I really think like Plarium had fun when they did this. And it gives us something kind of fun to read, because a lot of the stories are they're very like sad or tragic, or they end up being like redemption stories. This one is pretty much just humorous. I would love to know what you guys think. Leave me some comments down below of what you think for this story for Cillian the Lucky. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, check out some more videos up here in the playlist on the top right.